This is the lesson plan for 7th grade for the 11th and or the 12th of January. So block day, okay? Today we reviewed poetry notes from Tuesday with our shoulder partners. Okay? I showed a clip from a movie called Dead Poet Society, which talked about the real meaning of poetry, about how poetry isn't just something cute that we write. It actually has a meaning. It actually has a real world value. Okay? Basically it's because everyone is human, everyone has emotions. And then we did 3 different things in class, activities. We did see poetry, hear poetry, and recall poetry. For see poetry, I gave people in class a packet of poems. Each one was in the shape of its subject matter. There was a poem about Michael Jackson. It was in the shape of the dancer and singer Michael Jackson. There was a poem about a swan on a lake. So you had a swan on a lake. There was a picture of a cat. And the poem was actually in the shape of a cat. So if you were absent, if you want to see those, feel free to come ask me and I'll be happy to show you. During see poetry, no one was allowed to speak. And the whole point behind that was they had 15 minutes to get some classwork done. And in that time, they had to communicate without actually speaking. No mouthing words, anything. The whole point behind that is because I wanted to show everyone that poetry is very much like classwork when you're not able to speak. Unlike fiction, where you're able to just kind of describe to your heart's content, poetry has to be short, has to be to the point. You can't waste anything. You can't waste any space, any word. Doing classwork without being able to speak helped people realize that that's exactly what poetry is. It also proved the point that you were able to say a lot without actually communicating anything. You can say a whole bunch and people can have no idea what you're talking about. Likewise, you can hardly say anything, but you can communicate a whole bunch. People understand exactly what you're saying. Hear poetry. Everyone in class was actually blindfolded. And then I had them take a quiz. I had them walk around the room. So they were able to experience things. You were able to have your shoes off, so you were able to feel the ground with your hands and feel the ground with your feet, feel the desks and the walls and everything else with your hands. And then they ended up writing about what their experience was, which was recall poetry. So those two kind of tied together what it was like without seeing, because a lot of middle school students will write what they see, especially when it comes to poems and stories. They don't really write about what they feel. Well, the recall poetry, you had to tell me what emotions you felt when you weren't able to see. What were you thinking? What were you feeling? What did you feel with your hands? If you were barefoot, did you feel the difference between the carpet and the tiles? Or did you step on something and you couldn't quite figure out what it was until you felt around with your foot or your hands? So that was the whole point behind today's lesson, was to have you experience poetry in a different way. That concludes the lesson of the day. There is no makeup work, by the way. If you missed class today, you're simply excused from the activity. So no worries, and I will see you in class next time.